I'm AJ.
I'm Poppy. I'm Georgia.
And I'm Janelle.
And we love books. To introduce our data, we chose the top 500 greatest novels published from the year 1021 all the way to 2015. We found this data from the website OCLC. The response variable we selected was the Goodreads average rating. So this is the average star rating on the site Goodreads. And this is a variable that's on the scale from 1 to 5 stars. Other variables we examined include um, author gender, primary language of publication, the author nationality, the average number of ratings, and publication year.
We started out our analysis with exploratory visualizations. Our first exploratory visualization examined the star ratings for books on Goodreads by author gender, and we found that books written by women had higher median and mean star ratings compared to books written by men.
Our second visualization explored the relationship between the number of Goodreads ratings and the average Goodreads rating of a book, and we found a positive increase in relationship between the two, which affirms the idea that ratings do influence readership, which is critical to our investigation on what literary perspectives are centered and why.
This figure shows the average star rating on Goodreads versus the publication year with respect to the language of origin. As you can see, significantly more books that are included in the top 500 from 1021 all the way to 2015 were written in English.
This final visualization shows the median star rating on Goodreads for books of different genres, from the most represented in the dataset, which is history, all the way to the least, which is war.
All right, as for our hypotheses, our null hypothesis was that variability in author gender, author nationality, publication year, the Goodreads number of ratings, original language, and genre do not impact the star rating of a book on Goodreads on average. And our alternative hypothesis was that variability in one or more of those variables changes the star rating of a book on Goodreads on average.
As for our methodology, we had a two-pronged approach. So first, we looked at additive linear models. So we used multiple predictors and used stepwise additions. And after every single addition, we assessed if the new variable added to the model increased the adjusted R squared, which means that it made our model stronger. And this was very informative because it showed us which variables were actually more important to increasing the applicability and accuracy of our model. And second, we also looked at interaction models because this is more realistic when it comes to how books are actually considered, because the characteristics of the book oftentimes play into how the other characteristics exist and how the entire book is perceived.
Great.
And for this, we only use 3 variables.
And then for our results, we had both the additive model and the interaction model. Our additive model had 6 predictor variables, and it had the highest adjusted R squared value of 0.56. However, we did end up choosing the interaction model as our favored final model because it is most like the real world, where different predictor variables interact with each other in like a kind of intersectionality like way. Because that p-value of our additive model was 0, that meant that we could reject our null hypothesis, which means that variability in all those aforementioned variables does impact the average star rating of a book on Goodreads. Our interactive model also had a p-value of 0, which meant that the variables included in the interactive model also do impact the average star rating of a book on Goodreads. And then
the variables we included in our final interaction model were author gender, author nationality, and genre. And on this slide, we have a comparison of the adjusted R-squared values of all the models that we created throughout the process. As you can see, our interaction model has a bit of a lower adjusted R-squared than the additive model, but for the reasons that we mentioned before, we did choose this as our final model. Because there were so many different nationalities and genres included in the data set, we did end up with a very long output for our interaction model. So we included the first couple rows of that on our slide here. And we also included a little bit of the beginning of the equation that we produced from our interaction model.
To really test the predictive power of our interactive model, we decided to input our favorite books into our interaction model, and then we compared those predicted values to the actual values on Goodreads. And as you can see, our predicted values are fairly accurate, excluding Georgia's.
So in conclusion, we have a few steps that we can implement in the future. First, one of our limitations was the memory that we had on our containers. So with a more powerful computer, we can expand our model to include more predictors, which will make our model even more accurate. Hypothetically, we need to put it to the test.
A way that our work can be applied and shared with the broader community is that members of the public could input their own favorite book into our model, get an output of its average star rating, its relative popularity level, and get recommendations for books that have similar genre types but may come from authors with more underrepresented social identities.
Thank you and happy holidays!